Morning, students, how are you all? Today we are going to talk about William Cooper's poem On the Receipt of My Mother's Picture. In our last video lecture, we have already talked about William Cooper and the literary age that he belonged to. And let's revise it a little bit. Let's talk about William Cooper. William Cooper he was born in 1731 and he died in 1800. William Cooper was a gentle, sensitive, deeply religious being, and who was, although for his profession was called to the bar, that is for a profession into law, and he was also appointed to various offices, but soon he went into retirement and devoted his time to writing poetry and keeping pets. Among his better-known poems are the two John Gilpin and his last poem, The Castaway. And in many ways, his poetry anticipates that of the Romantic Revival. That is to say that his poetry, along with the poetry of some other poets like Thomas Gray, William Collins, William Blake, James Thomson, their poetry is called pre-romantic poetry, which has the traits of both the neoclassical poetry as well as the traits of romanticism or romantic poetry. So their poetry is a blend of neoclassicism and romanticism. While they, as far as the poetic forms are concerned, they continue to use the old poetic forms of the neoclassical period, but the thought they introduced into their poetry, the freshness, the vigor, and the naturalness, and a concern for the downtrodden, for the poor, and for the rural side of human world has been given space in their poetry. So that is why in strain, in thought, their poetry is romantic, while in form they still use the neoclassical poetic forms and traditions, like the use of too many personifications, etc. in their poetry. So as far as William Cooper's poetry is concerned, he has described the aspect of nature which is romantic, and in John Gilpin and in The Castaway, and the concern of human beings has been depicted in these poems. And it has marked affinities too with that of Pope as well. Its prevailing notes are simplicity and gentleness. So the simplicity and gentleness are the two main points of his poetry. And as far as the poem On the Receipt of My Mother's Picture is concerned, it is an affectionate tribute to his mother by the 18th century poet. And it is one of his most moving poems. It is characterized by the utmost sincerity and directness, and there is a childlike simplicity about the writing. And it may be called an artless song, but it is a depiction of a personal sorrow, which the poet remembers at the age of 58. Now let's talk about some terms which have been used in the lines which we are going to discuss. There is a word here, Elysian. Elysian means perfectly blissful. Elysium in Greek mythology, means in Greek ancient stories, was the place of the good and the heroic after death. The good deeds and the heroic deeds. The good and the heroic means the good deeds, the heroic deeds, which were performed by a person during his lifetime. After his death, he he was said to go to Elysium. So Elysium can be compared with heaven. It is said that any person who performs good deeds goes to heaven, and any person who does bad deeds, bad works in his life goes to hell. So Elysium can be compared to heaven. So any person who has performed good deeds, heroic deeds, after death he goes to Elysium. So this is from Greek mythology, from ancient Greek stories, folk stories, uh, mythological stories. Life's journey just begun. Life's journey just begun means the poet was only 6 years old when his mother died. The bell. The bell means the passing bell, as it was called. It was rung when a person was dying, immediately after his death, and on the occasion of his funeral. So a bell is tolled during various ceremonies. A bell in a Christian church is tolled, is rung in various Christian ceremonies and festivals, and even and also on the death of some person, when a Christian dies, when a Christian person dies. So after his funeral, during the occasion of his funeral, uh, the bell in the church is rung. So that is what is meant by the bell here. Still means constantly, continually. Dupe of tomorrow. Dupe of tomorrow means victim of a blind faith in the future, in spite of every fresh day being as disappointing as the last. All human beings, all of us, we have hope, we have faith that we are going to have a good future. We are going to live a good life. We are going to lead a happy life. So this is the hope of human being. This is the faith of human being. The poet here says that it is blind faith, and human being is a victim of this blind faith. Human being always thinks that future is going to be good for him, but the fact is that every single day is as disappointing as the last one. Every day human being feels that he is a failure in his life, or still he has not achieved success in his life, still he hasn't got all those things which he wishes. So that is what is meant by here, dupe of tomorrow. The poet says that man is a victim of his blind faith, is a victim of his blind hope. So these are some of the terms which can be seen in these lines which we are going to discuss today. Faithful remembrance of one so dear, O welcome guest, though unexpected here, who biddest me honor with an artless song. Affectionate a mother lost so long, I will obey, not willingly alone, but gladly, as the precept were her own. And while that face renews my filial grief, fancy shall weave a charm for my relief, shall steep me in Elysian reverie, a momentary dream that thou art she. My mother, when I learned that thou wast dead, say, wast thou conscious of the tears I shed? Hovered thy spirit o'er thy soaring son? Wretch, even then life's journey just begun. Perhaps thou gavest me, though unseen, a kiss, perhaps a tear, if souls can weep in bliss. Ah, that maternal smile, it answers yes. I heard the bell tolled on thy burial day. I saw the hearse that bore thee slow away, and turning from my nursery window, drew a long, long sigh, and wept a last adieu. But was it such? It was. When thou art gone, adieus and farewells are a sound unknown. May I but meet thee on that peaceful shore, The parting sound shall pass my lips no more. Thy maidens grieved themselves at my concern, oft gave me promise of a quick return. What ardently I wished, I long believed, and disappointed still, was still deceived. By disappointment every day beguiled, dupe of tomorrow even from a child. Thus many a sad tomorrow came and went, till all my stock of infant sorrow spent. I learned at last submission to my lot, but though I less deplored thee, never forgot. So these are the lines which we are going to discuss today. The poet here says he addresses the picture which he received from his cousin, the picture of his mother. When the poet received the picture of his mother from his cousin, he suddenly became melancholic, sad, sorrowful. He lost in grief, and he began to think about his childhood, about his mother, how he used to play with his mother, how he used to make love to him, how he used to love him as her son. And the poet remembers the day of his mother's death, when his mother died, and how sorrowful, how grievous he became. He addresses the picture, calling it a perfect representation of his dear mother. He says that the picture truly depicts the countenance, the face, the body of his mother. For him, now the picture is his mother, when her mother has actually gone from his life. He says that the picture brings his dead mother so truly before his eyes. He did not expect to receive the picture after so long a period that has passed after his mother's death. He says that the picture is like a welcome guest to him. He is very happy to get the picture. He says that the picture seems to ask him to celebrate the memory of his long lost mother with a simple and unskillful song, expressing his love. The poet says that in all humility, the song, the present poem, is indeed an artless song. The poet here calls his own poem artless. The poet says that he cannot perfectly sing, he cannot perfectly write a poem, a perfect poem about his mother. He does not have that much perfection. But the painting, the picture of his mother, which is painted by a certain painter, is a true representation of his mother. So, the present poem is indeed an artless song, the poet says, with which the poet honors his long dead mother. The poet here says that whatever song he is able to write, whatever poem he is able to write about his mother, the poet has tried to remember and tried to honor his long dead mother. The poet says that he would do it not only with raising any objection, but with the greatest pleasure to himself, as if the command had come directly from his mother. The poet is happy enough to write a poem about his long dead mother. The poet says that writing a song in memory of his mother will give him as great a joy as doing something obeying his mother's command would have given. So writing the poem would be a most pleasant activity for him. The picture reminds the poet his dead mother, and so he full of grief, and as he is full of grief for his mother who is no more. The poet, however, feels joy with the help of his imagination. The poet is in grief. He is in intense sorrow that he lost his mother at such a tender age when he was merely 6 years old. But now when he is 58 years old, when he has almost spent his youth and he is heading towards his own old age, he thinks at this moment of life, at this juncture of life, to write a poem about his long dead mother by the poet is a kind of an activity which will give honor to his mother, and which will also give him satisfaction that he did something for his mother. Although now there has been a very long period of time, a very long gap since his mother died. He says that although at the sight of that face of his mother in the picture, his sorrow for his mother is reawakened, yet he would console himself with the magic influence of imagination. He would indulge, though only for a time, in a happy dream that the figure in the portrait was actually his mother. The poet implies that he would console his grief for the loss of his mother by fancying that his mother was really present before him in the portrait. Now the poet imagines that although his mother is not present here before him, she is not with him, and it has been a very long time since he left this world and left him, and it is impossible to bring her back. But the poet says that with the help of the picture, which is a true representation of his mother, he can write a poem about her, and with the help of the picture and with the help of his poem, he can feel her presence with him. He can feel an abstract presence of her with him. So this is the gist of these lines which we have discussed today. And part 3 of this poem will be discussed in another video lecture. Thank you for listening.